I'm an artist too, myself. And for some time, I was not, and it wasn't a good time of my life. So I wasn't very positive as I am now. I'm very happy.
It was a good time in the sense that you were clarifying,
it was a contrast,
and launching rockets and
it
building
was very
a vortex.
valuable. But my question is, I was creating paintings in that time, and that energy, did that energy get in the paintings that somehow till today it hasn't soul or doing great for me as the new ones? Does my new energy or my current happiness affect those objects or paintings that I did in that time?
Yes.
It changed the energy of that. Okay.
Yes. We want to talk about this a little bit because this is such a good conversation to have, because what we're talking about is what current now vibration does even to the past. In other words, you change the past. As you stand in your now, whether you are focused upon the past, the present, or the future, you're doing it from now. And that was the whole point of our earlier conversation before you came forward to the hot seat, is that the environment in which you are standing is more than what you have manifested. It's more than what you can see. It's so much more. So let's sort this out just a little bit, because there's some other questions that are popping up around the room around this that we want to satisfy as well. So let's say that you are, as you described, not in a good place.
I wasn't. Now I am in a good place.
So let's say that you were not in a good place at the point that you created something. So you have to understand, it's what we were talking about before, that the more you know what you don't want, the more you're asking for what you do want. And that's why so many artists, whether it's music or painting or sculpting, they sense that out of the pathos comes some of the greatest work. So sometimes a heartbroken songwriter writes a hit, and it's not only because, it is a little bit because, but it's not only because there's a lot of heartbroken people out there that are resonating with a heartbroken song. It's not only that. It's that when you really know what you don't want, you really know what you do want, and so you really launch a strong rocket of desire. It is that contrast that is the life that you feel all the time. Here's another strong statement we want you to hear. When you are in that place that does not feel good, you are creating an equivalent other end of the stick. So they are proportionate to one another. That's a sort of balance of life that a lot of people miss. We don't want you to feel miserable for long periods of time. We don't want you to feel miserable at all. But we do want you to know that when you feel negative emotion, you are doing good work. So let's say you're in a not good feeling place and it comes out in a dynamic way. Well, yes, what you put into that painting energetically matters a lot. But the person who is standing in the gallery looking at it, or in the place of purchasing it looking at it, how they're feeling at the time, they can be resonating with the pain that you were feeling, and that's why they want this painting. Or they can be resonating with what came from it. You see what we're getting at? And so don't worry about anything that you have created before, but it is important as you look at it now to appreciate it, to feel the realness. And so what we want you to hear from us is, we're going to speak this in terms that might be even easier for you all to hear. What we don't want you to hear from us, we don't want you to hear from us that if you painted it and you were in a bad place, then it no longer is of value in the world. Because that simply is not the case. Because it's full of all that you are, and the seeker of it will find the resonance with it. But as you stand in your now, feeling appreciation for the contrast that gave birth to that. We've not had this conversation before, and it is the conversation that we want so much to have, because this is a conversation of, because you're not complete and never will be, because you are eternal, of feeling mad at yourself or inconsequential or not enough because you're standing currently in a place that's different than you want. We want you to understand that it's a good thing, not a bad thing, that you're having this experience as it's launching these rockets. And so if we were to say to you that painting doesn't represent you now and therefore it is of no value, that would be like saying to you, negative emotion is a bad thing, or that contrast is a bad thing, when the contrast is the stuff that all of evolution comes from. You see what we're getting?
Yes.
At one time, you were 2, and then you were 3, and then you were 4, and then you were 5, and here you are now. And all that you have been is part of who you now are. And you don't want to diminish any of that, even though you are far more and far different now than you were then. All of that is part of who you now are.
I just wanted to clarify that even because I created, it also evolved with me, with my new thinking, my new state of mind.
Yes, but this is how. So let's say you painted something, and as people look at it, they think, well, you didn't get your paintbrush out again and you haven't been touching it up. In other words, the paint dried or whatever, and there it is. It's as you left it. Well, nothing is as you left it, because as you think about it, it continues to vibrationally evolve. And so the best thing that you can do for that painting in terms of its acceptance into the world or whatever is to appreciate it. But there's more that we want to say. Not just appreciate it for what it is, appreciate what was happening that caused it to be. We want you to feel that way about every relationship that tortured you.
Everything that you create.
We want you to feel that way about every wrongdoing you think you need forgiveness for. Your inner being will never offer you forgiveness because your inner being never condemned you to begin with. That's worth thinking about, isn't it? So your appreciation of the object now is of benefit, yes. Not just because it makes it more findable by others who have an active vibration like it, but because you keep bringing yourself forward, and everything in your experience you can bring forward too. Oh, you're leading us to something else that we've been wanting to say for a long time. We've been tiptoeing into this in the last gathering or so, but this is a really good place for this conversation. We've offered a lot of processes over time, and a lot of you have applied them. Esther applied all of them and still applies many of them because she's wanting to tune her vibrational frequency. And when she feels negative emotions, she wants to clean up the vibration that she knows is the reason for that. But what we're saying to Esther these days, Esther, who's a master of deliberate creation, Esther, who is very much aware of how she's feeling and doesn't take any vibration for granted. She wants to do something about it. She wants to be deliberate and not be a creator by default. We've been saying to her, getting out ahead of it is really what you're reaching for, which those are hard words to wrap your thoughts around. What do you mean getting out ahead of it? And what we mean by that is not waiting until life gives you something that you react to and then trying to get over the reaction. We mean tuning into source so that your action is inspired from that tuning. The other day something happened that was unsettling to Esther, so she sat to do a process so she felt less unsettled. And she'd been doing some of those processes with a friend earlier, and she was sort of sick of this focus wheel process, because it was starting to feel like trying too hard because it was trying too hard. And so she sort of set her book aside as if to say, enough of that. And then the thought came to her mind, if I were starting over with this relationship or with this big piece of my life, if I were completely starting over with it, knowing what I now know, if I were, what would I choose? And then the thought piled into her mind, more than if, since right now I am new. This is what you're talking about. Since right now I am newly looking at this old painting. But since I'm newly doing it now, I am new now. I am new now, and if I'm tuned in, tapped in, turned on, if I'm in love with life, if I'm in vibrational sync with who I really am, if I'm not trying to overcome resistance or mired in resistance, but if I'm jubilant and lighthearted and happy and pondering something. She recalled us saying so many times, it may be our most often offered phrase, One who's connected to source energy or to the stream or to the vortex. We've had a lot of different stories that we've been telling you about this way to describe this connection to your source, to who you really are. One who's connected to that is millions of times more powerful than one who is not. That's a leverage that we can't even find words in Esther's vocabulary to define accurately. Tuning in is powerful, and for a few seconds Esther felt that. She got a glimpse of what it feels like. Since I can be or do or have anything that I choose, what do I choose? Because, almost none of you do it. Almost everyone says, since I choose that from where I am, then I've got to get over this and this and this and this and this. I got to go back and repaint that painting, or I've got to go back and I've got to go back and find forgiveness with that. And all you do is get muddled in the mire of that. Because it's attraction, attraction, attraction. There is no exclusion in this universe. And so when you see yourself as something that needs improvement and you push against the part that you're trying to improve, it doesn't diminish, it becomes more, and you take it with you into your now, and it muddles your ability, it stops your clarity of acknowledging the perfection of whatever it is that you're giving your attention to now. Are you with us? This is a deep conversation. So also, it's like the difference between trying to fix something that is broken and just finding something that is perfect and new. It's a big difference. It's a big difference. And you have the ability in every moment to go right to that clarity. It'll take a little practice. Esther's still practicing every day. But the point that we made with her in that experience that she was living, what she took away from it, and therefore the analogy that we're offering to you here is, don't try so hard, don't work so hard. If we can get across to you that in your living you've created a vibrational reality that is real, and it is full of all that you've become, and that's calling you, and your inner being is standing there in that vibrational frequency, radiating such a signal, you call it inspiration, you feel it often while you're doing your art. And as you acknowledge the existence of that vibration and you seek to find it by seeking to feel it, which means you're looking for feelings of clarity and feelings of happy and feelings of empowerment and feelings of elation, and doing whatever you can to find that, then that is a faster way, a more effective way, and certainly a more enjoying the journey way of moving from the thought to the thing. Thoughts are turning to things constantly, and they are mimicking how you feel. And so what's manifesting is a good way to know what your vibrational offering has been. But an even better way is to know what your vibrational offering is. And getting out ahead of it means caring about how you feel, period. Not for the ulterior motive of feeling good so I can create better. Because did you hear just what happened? When I decide I want to feel good so that I can create better, what am I looking at? Worse. And what did I just introduce into the vibrational mix? Resistance. And so what did I just do to my receiving mode? Muted it. So how do I feel? Not so good. Confusion rather than clarity. You following? So our encouragement, what we're really saying to you is, be nicer to you. Do more of the things that feel good to you. Stop sacrificing. Stop feeling like I got to work hard in order to receive this. Instead, begin making declarative statements to yourself like this. I am an extension of source energy, and source energy is all over me. I'm an extension of source energy, and my source energy is reveling in what I have created as a result of my exposure to contrast. It's a wonderful thing where I stand, and it's a wonderful thing what I've created. And all I want to do, all I need to do, all I want to do is to follow my bliss. Follow my bliss. People are in all kinds of different places. If you will be good to yourself, I feel like a walk. I feel like breathing deeply. I feel like listening to music. I feel like dancing tonight. I feel like a really good meal. I feel like a spa. I feel like going to the ocean. I feel like taking a day off. I feel like calling this uplifting friend. I feel like just curling up and reading a book. Be nicer to yourself. And that's what we mean by getting out ahead of it. We want you to put yourself into that creative place more often, where you let yourself flow. And do you know, this is where it gets really important for you to hear.